Hello BookTube! Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth and this is my January wrap-up. For the month of January I read 14 books. 7 of those were for TBR Takedown 3.0 and then I spent the entire rest of the month reading 7 other books. Half my books were concentrated in one week and then the other half were spread out over the rest of the month. I did not get everything read in January that I had hoped to, but I will show you what I did read. Now, I did a wrap-up video for TBR Takedown, and I did talk about those books, but I'll show you briefly what they are. I read The Elite by Kiera Cass. I read The Strange Case of Origami Yoda and Darth Paper Strikes Back, both by Tom Engelberger. I read The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. I read The Joy of a Peanut's Christmas by Charles Schulz. And on audio, I listened to The Secret of the Old Clock by Carolyn Keene. This is the first of the Nancy Drew mysteries. And then I also listened to The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, but I have already returned that to the library. There were 3 days in January before TBR Takedown started, and so I got a good start on The Sword of Summer by Rick Riordan during those 3 days, and then I put it aside and did not read this for TBR Takedown because it's really too long of a book for a readathon. And then I picked it back up after the readathon was over and finished it then. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I've heard several people talk about it already, and I was looking forward to reading it. I had been wanting to read it ever since I got it at a Rick Riordan live event in October, and it just had too many other things that were waiting to be read in front of it. And then in December I was just reading so much stuff. I'm trying to finish up various goals and reading challenges and whatnot, and I said, you know what, as soon as I'm done with all this, when January hits, I am reading this book, and that's what I did. So I just took my time reading it. In fact, after TBR Takedown was over and I picked this back up, I just decided not to rush through it. I just wanted to read it and savor it and enjoy it. I don't often allow myself the luxury of buying a brand new book at full price, which is what I did in this situation. So I just wanted to get my money's worth out of it, and I did. I really did. I just enjoyed it thoroughly. It is about Magnus Chase, a young man who is homeless. I think he's about 16 years old, and he is killed in the beginning of the book. And in his afterlife, he finds out that he is the son of a Norse god, and so throughout the story he has a quest that he must do and some other friends that come to help him. He still does have contact with the human world, but he's also got a friend who's an elf and a friend who's a dwarf, and so it's very much a fantasy book, of course, but it's just very good. I thought it was it's very light and upbeat. You might think, since it starts out with the main character getting killed, that it's going to be kind of depressing, but it's really not. It's a fun book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, this book was not fun in any way, shape, or form. However, I recommend this book to you. Oh my goodness. I read this for book club. I actually listened to it on audio. Then I was able to find my own copy. Actually, a couple days before book club, I had already finished the book on audio, and I was at a library, and I found this on their shelf for 25 cents. And I mean, this is a thick book and in good shape. So I snatched it up quick because I want my husband to read this. Now, I may do a whole review of this book. I don't know. I can't decide how much I want to say right here and if I just want to do a full review. But it blew my mind. It's a Russian historical fiction mystery thriller. It's the first in a trilogy, so definitely want to read the other 2. I have to tell you though, the first half of the book I absolutely hated. I thought, I do not, as with a lot of book club books, I was thinking, I don't want to read this book. Yeah, I want to be in book club. I want to be able to get out on the discussions, but I've got too many other things to read right now. I don't really want to take time for this. Blah, 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 you know. And then about halfway through, it started getting interesting, and I kind of started getting what was going on a little bit. And then, wow. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you have any interest at all in Russian historical fiction, you should pick this up. And wow. Now, my original January TBR was to read all 5 of the 5th grade Sunshine State Young Reader Award finalists. I only got 3 of them read. I have since then, in the first week of February, I have read a 4th one, and I've started the 5th one, and I'll do a wrap-up of all 3 of these when I get the 5th one finished. But I'll just show them to you real quick. This is what I read in January. The Hero's Guide to Saving Your Kingdom by Christopher Healy. This is really, really cute. This is about the fairy tale princes and their stories. You know, the nameless princes that are just called Prince Charming. Well, this is about 4 of them and their misadventures, if you will. So I really, really enjoyed this book. I also read Kizzy Ann Stamps by Jerry Watts. This was a historical fiction book. It took place in 1963. This is about a young African-American girl who has to go to the newly integrated school, and she is writing letters to her new teacher, her new white teacher. Her former teacher from the black school has told all the students that they need to write letters to their new teacher and introduce themselves. So these are her letters to her teacher. And then I read Pie by Sarah Weeks. It's told from the perspective of a young girl whose aunt was a pie baker and owned a pie shop, and she dies in the beginning of the book and leaves her pie recipes to Lardo. Well, Lardo is her cat, and so throughout the book they're trying to figure out how is a cat supposed to be the recipient of recipes, first of all, and then the cat gets stolen, and then a lot of things are getting broken into. The pie shop gets broken into, and her house gets broken into. So somebody is trying to get to these pie recipes, and so it's just an entertaining, whimsical mystery story that I think was very enjoyable. Then on audio in my car, I mentioned in my Golds video that starting this year, I am no longer the book sales chairman at our Friends of the Library. And with a new change in leadership comes changes in the way they're going to do things over there. And so one of the things they're going to do is not carry audiobooks on cassette. So I said, well, can I have them? If they get donated, rather than throw them away, can I have them? And then I can pick out what I want, and I can, you know, give the rest of them to somebody else. So that is what has been happening. And right at the beginning of when all this started happening, 5 books by Alexander McCall Smith came through, and they were the first 5 books in the No. 1 Ladies Detective Agency series. Now, I have already listened to the first 3 of these books on audio, and I was thinking the first 2 I listened to more than a year ago, and the 3rd one I just listened to earlier this year. But I decided, since it had been a while since I had listened to the first 2, and I had them all in front of me, I would just go ahead and start from the beginning again, and I did. So I listened to the No. 1 Ladies Detective Agency, then I listened to the next one, which is Tears of the Giraffe. I also started the 3rd one in January, which is called Morality for Beautiful Girls, but I have not finished it yet. Now, if you're not familiar with the No. 1 Ladies Detective Agency, this is a really unique and clever mystery series that is set in Africa, in Botswana. And it is about a woman who decides to open a detective agency. And she is very smart, very clever, and the different scenarios that she finds herself in are quite unique to the setting, to the area. Just very, very interesting and very entertaining. Now, I've heard people say that they tried to read these and couldn't get into them. I will tell you that the beginning of the first book has quite a bit of backstory. It tells you about the main character is Precious Ramotswe, and it does tell her backstory of her as a child and a good deal of information about her father, how he was before he died. Now, if you continue on with the series, you can understand why that's necessary, because you really need to know where she's coming from and how she's able then to go forward and solve these mysteries and understand and kind of see into the minds of people and be able to understand and read people the way she does. Her father instilled in her a set of values, and just he had certain values and standards himself that he lived by, and showed those, you know, modeled those for her. So a lot of the times when she's approaching a particular case, she will remember back to something that she learned from her father to be able to solve that case or solve that mystery. So I think it's important to the series, even though that part is a little bit dry and you think, "Oh, why am I having to go through all of this?" It's because it really sets the tone for the whole series. And so now I am just on the edge of finishing the third book, and I will be able to go on now and continue with the series and listen to books that I have not ever listened to before. And they're just wonderful. I really enjoy them a lot. So if you can get past all the backstory and go forward from there, they're very entertaining, and I just love them. I think they're wonderful. Now, if you saw my January TBR, I mentioned that I was going to read some other books that I didn't get to. So let me tell you the ones that I do still plan to read, and then the ones that I'm going to put on the back burner for now. A couple of books that I checked out from the Bookmobile on Christmas Eve, and I do still plan to read them. They are overdue from the Bookmobile. The Bookmobile comes later this week, and as I'm filming this on February 7th, it's going to be here in a few more days. And this is a very short book. I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's called The Christmas Joyride by Melody Carlson, and I am looking forward to reading this. Since I showed this in my January TBR, I've had a couple of people tell me that Melody Carlson is a very good writer and they enjoy her books. So this just really looks like a fun book. My husband's already read it, and I do plan to read this before I take this back to the Bookmobile. Now, another book that I got from the Bookmobile is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Of course, I know you've seen this all over BookTube, and I did pick it up after I finished Magnus Chase, and I had planned to read it in January. I got about almost 70 pages in, and it was really taking me a lot longer than I expected it would. You know, a lot of people said that they've been able to just whiz through this in a couple of sittings. It's 600 pages. Of course, the format is a lot different, but I think because of that, it didn't flow as easy for me as maybe for other people. I really had to kind of study it out, and I would have to flip back and forth to figure out exactly what was going on and reread some parts. And I'm really intrigued to read it. I'm very interested in the story. It was just taking me too long, and I had all those Sunshine State books to read and various other things that I had wanted to read in January, and I just felt like if I continued to read this, that's all I was going to get done. And so I had to just put it down and pick up the other books. So I do also want to get this read, but I do really want to give it my all and give it my focus this week and try to get this read. I think once I really kind of figure out what's going on, I'll be able to zip on through it a little faster. But it was just a little harder for me to kind of get the flow of it at first. So it was taking me a lot longer than I thought it would. I mentioned a couple of Christmas books that I was going to read. I did read The Christmas Wish. This is really just kind of a glorified Christmas card, so that just took a few seconds. But I never got around to reading the Book of White Christmas. It's got just a lot of beautiful pictures and some of the background information about the White Christmas movie. I'm going to go ahead and just put this aside and maybe get this back out next Christmas. I'm not going to read this right now. And then I also showed Gregor and the Code of Claw by Suzanne Collins, the last book in the Underland Chronicles. I did not get to this in January, and I probably will not get to this in February. I'm going to put this off maybe until April, but we'll see. I will keep you posted. The same for Into the Wild by Aaron Hunter. I will probably also put this off until April. And the reason April, because my February is just full already. I'm going to film my February TBR as soon as I finish this video, and it's just full. And then in March, I'm going to be concentrating on mysteries because I'm going to be co-hosting a challenge in March called March Mystery Madness. So be watching for that. And I am hosting that with Troy Towell. If you have not ever checked out his channel, you must go there. He is so funny, and we're going to be doing that challenge together. He's a huge mystery fan, and so I'm excited to team up with Troy. We are about as different as night and day, and polar opposites. So he's a lot of fun, and I'm old, he's young. We are, I'll just put it this way, we are a very diverse team, and it's going to be fun, a very fun experience to work with Troy. So that being said, I am not going to read this until April because March is full of mysteries. So that is what I read in January, 14 books. Oh, I also started The Martian on audio, and I did not finish it because it was just it was due at the library. My husband listened to it, and he finished it, and I got started on it, and it was due at the library by the time I started it. Other people were waiting on it and I couldn't renew it, and my book club is going to be reading it later on in the year, so I just decided to go ahead and send it back, and I'll get it later on in the year whenever I have time. Now, some of the books that I read are going to count for the Around the World in 52 Books challenge that I am doing this year. The week 1 challenge was to read a book you wanted to read in 2015, and so I'm counting The Sword of Summer for that challenge. And the week 2 challenge was to read a book set in a different continent, and since Child 44 is set in Russia, I am counting that for that challenge. The third challenge I have not finished yet. It was to read a Goodreads Choice Award winner, and so Illuminae will count for that challenge. And then the week 4 challenge was to read a book by an author you just discovered in 2015. So when I get it read, I will count The Christmas Joyride, because I had not heard of Melody Carlson until 2015. Also, in my January TBR, I mentioned that I was going to be watching some of the movie adaptations for books that I had read in December. I did watch The Outsiders, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't remember much about how it ended or anything like that, and so I enjoyed watching that. One of the actors in that was my favorite teen star when I was a teen, and that was Leif Garrett. He played one of the Socs that got killed, and I remember at the time when I watched that movie being so disappointed that Leif Garrett played the one that got killed, and I remember thinking, oh, why does Leif Garrett have to be the one that gets killed earlier in the movie? And he only got to be in the movie for a little while. But, you know, it was a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Also, I listened to Dune on audio in December, and I had said that I was going to watch that movie adaptation, but I have not gotten around to that yet. But I did watch another movie adaptation right at the end of January. My daughter and I watched Anne of Green Gables, and I had not seen that in quite a few years. I ran across an old copy on a VHS that came through our library book sale. I thought I had a copy somewhere, but I don't know whatever happened to it. And so my daughter actually watched it with me, even though she's never read the book, and sometimes I have a hard time getting her to watch or read some of the older classics like that. She's just not interested in it yet, but maybe at some point in her life she will read them. But we had fun. We had fun watching it and enjoyed it. So that was what I watched in January. I didn't get to watch Dune, but I did watch The Outsiders and Anne of Green Gables. So I guess that's it for this video. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.